This is Jessica.
And this is Kelly. And this is the Chasing Brighter
podcast. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are continuing our series, Staying Healthy and Happy During the Holidays. And today we are going to be talking about avoiding the happiness trap. How are you doing today, Kelly?
I'm doing great, Jess. How are you?
I know that sleep is very important and we prioritize sleep. However, Kelly, for the past 2 nights, I have been staying up very late because I just read the book It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Did you read this book?
Can I roll my eyes to the back of my head?
No, why? You hated it?
Hold on. Let me see. Let me make sure that this is the book that
About intimate partner violence.
Oh, no, I haven't read that one.
Okay, Kelly. I was like,
I thought, what the book I read was Verity. Did you read that one? Do not read that one.
No.
Okay.
Kelly, this book was so amazing. I had to tell my children about it. So on the ride to school, I broke down the book.
It's like a super duper bestseller right now.
The sequel. So everyone's kind of telling me about it because the sequel came out October 2022.
Yes,
so I'm so glad that I didn't read it a long time ago and had to wait years.
Okay.
I saw that it was signed in 2019 to be a movie. Kelly, in 15 minutes, I was telling my kids, and Dominic was kind of biting his fingers. He's like, wait. And he was asking me questions about it. And I was like, hey guys, this was so good. However, there are graphic sex scenes. And so Gabby was saying, my friend at school was talking about it, but he was only talking about the graphic sex scenes. So, I read a ton. And so some books have sex scenes and some of them say, they kind of start kissing and then they wake up in the morning. But this one had a few. It wasn't 50 Shades of Grey or anything, but anyway. Anyways, Kelly, put that up. I read it in 2 nights. I couldn't put it down. My heart was racing. I had to keep reading. I loved the character development. I loved it all. And I'm so excited there's a sequel that I can start reading tonight.
That sounds very lovely. I actually just finished reading Green Lights from Matthew McConaughey.
Okay.
Autobiography. And he narrates it on the Audible one.
Do you love his voice or something?
He has a great voice, but you know what? I think every book I've read where the author reads the book, it's especially when it's a biography like that, it just adds so much more. I feel like you get more out of the book because they're speaking their true voice.
Yeah. Did you like it? I heard it was kind of oversimplified. I don't know. I've heard mixed reviews about it.
In some ways, it's still sticking with me.
I got to put that on my list.
I think you would really like it.
You got to, when there's 2 choices, you got to take the green light. I don't know. That's a terrible impression.
Well, first of all, the very end of the book, I need to get the paperback of it because the very end of the book, he talks about chasing your best self.
Oh, okay.
So I appreciate it. I think the stories were good coming from the childhood that we had or just upbringing, being in the country-ish. Mm-hmm. Even though we didn't have the volatility that he had, we had a pretty stable, uneventful childhood in a lot of ways. Anyway, so my point of that, sorry, is I'm digressing, is that I devoured that in 3 days. And so I have to practice self-control and I can't jump from another amazing book to another because I have a family and a husband and obligations because I could just sit and read and devour books when they're that good.
So for me, books are for car time and before bed. I too want to drop everything and just read. I am also listening to, I think we talked about this, the series, The School for Good and Evil. So Gabby and I read it together when she was in 5th grade, 2 of the books. And now there are 6, but at the time there were 4 of 6. So Gabby and I watched the movie on Netflix, which is so cute. And it made me want to go back and listen to those books again. So I'm on book 3. I think that's a great listen. And it's nice when you can have a family-friendly book to listen to in the car too. So if the kids are in the car, they can hear it as well.
Yeah.
So I'm loving that. And I listen to it at 1.5 speed because
Okay. Sometimes
Those
they are a little
long
slow.
books, and they're very. I read really fast, and so I need to listen very fast.
My all-time favorite, one of my favorite books, speaking of shows,
Have I read this?
is Shantaram by Gregory David Roberts. It's a very
That is
thick
a very
paperback.
thick book. Is it like a series? You said?
Well, actually, I'm reading the sequel. It's taking me months to read the sequel because it doesn't come in Audible, and so I actually have to read it, and so that makes it's like just as thick. But this is now a show on Apple TV
Called Shantaram.
Yeah. It's
Is it good? Even the picture looks depressing. Is it depressing?
I love. Did you ever read A Fine Balance?
I don't think so.
Okay, so Slumdog Millionaire-esque kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's really awesome because the book is about. It's basically a autobiography. It's a fiction, but it's Gregory David Roberts. It's about his life.
Oh,
And
autobiographical.
Yes. Oh, look at you. You're so smart, Jess.
I have the words.
You have the words. And it's really, I mean, what's cool is I read this, 15, 16 years ago. And it's so gratifying when you read a book a long time ago and it gets turned into a movie, because that means you're a good,
But see, then I'm rusty and I don't remember, and then I have to reread it.
Well, what's kind of cool is it just so happened
up.
that I had picked up the sequel back in March. And that's really awesome because now I know what happens further.
Yeah.
But it's what I like, some of those epic novels. But it's about his life in Bombay, India.
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay.
I feel like a lot of our books on our book club and just that we like to highlight on Chasing Butter is really about women and inspiring women. And some of these other ones are like guilty pleasures too. Like,
no, I think about that because I'm like, oh, I really want to I want to do a book club on It Ends With Us. But there is a lot that you could tie into Chasing Brighter, just as far as like intimate partner violence and relationships and choices that we make. But I talk with one of the Pilates instructors, and we talk about it, calling it like brain candy, like sometimes you need a break, and you need, like, that's like for me, the School for Good and Evil. Obviously it's a young adult, fantasy novel. And so it's like, I don't always need my brain to hurt so much when I'm trying to also, evolve and grow. But anyway, the holidays are here. And I know we wanted to talk about the happiness trap. The happiness trap for me, I think, kind of lines up with maybe not so much comparison, which I think is part of it. But what resonates for me is the perfectionism of trying to do all the things and make everything this most wonderful holiday because we need to be happy. How about for you? What do you think of when you think of the happiness trap?
So I think about you, and I think about people who really have a strong vision of how they would like the holidays to be, and do a lot to make that be the way it is. I thought this episode was going to be very interesting in that I have a little bit of happiness trap situation happening for myself. But I think the other part for me is I really try not to do that. I try not to go to the extent. I think so remember when we came for Christmas and Wes was 2, and like I realized that there are a lot of people who do some pretty ridiculous things for Christmas, like Christmas Eve, Christmas morning thing. And I'm not one of them, and
Gabby had a giant Barbie house and Dominic had a big train table.
Well, it was also like just weird because it was like all about your 2 kids in some way. And like, we were like the second class citizens that came and stood in the corner. And you guys go all out for Christmas and you put on a tremendous display for the kids. And it's very, very special for your kids. And I'm not saying that we don't do that sometimes, but the extent to which, especially when the kids were younger, we just don't do that. And that's okay. And it's not just about that, but like the fact that mom and dad sleep over or used to sleep over on your couch to like see the kids
no,
Christmas
in the
morning.
guest room. Yeah, they still sleep over.
Your love of seeing the kids come down the stairs and like see all the things.
Right.
It's really important to you.
Yeah.
What do you think that is? What do you think like, where is that coming from?
We were never home growing up on Christmas.
And so that's really important to you to be
we
home.
were traveling. I think our cousin Christina.
Yeah.
When we were ever over there, and she would come downstairs, and it was so magical. Like Santa had come, and it was like mom and dad sometimes would give us our gifts on Christmas Eve. I don't know. It was just like, I was very set when we had kids. I wanted to be home on Christmas. And I wanted them to come down the stairs. Mm-hmm. I wanted them to feel magical. Financially and gift wise, I don't think that we spend a lot on the kids. I know when Gabby and Dom were little, like it was one big thing.
It's just easy to have a lot of
when they were little,
a lot of stuff
but
when
it's
they're
like
kids.
Really, we like to make their birthday very special and put a lot into their birthday because that's their special day. So it's not monetary. Like I don't think we're spending a lot of money on them. But it's more the magic of coming down and having, something special. So that comes, I think, for me, that we traveled as kids and were never home on Christmas Day and never had that moment that was like in the movies. The other thing I want to say too, just for happiness trap, also, the holidays aren't happy for some people, and it can be triggering. And like, for instance, maybe for you, when you said you felt like second-class citizens, maybe that didn't feel good, right? And you haven't been here for Christmas since. And maybe you were like, oh, that didn't feel good to me.
Well, I also think, so in some ways, maybe it had me realize that, like, what about my family and my time with my family, right? And so that is more sacred in some ways than it was previously. I'm okay if we weren't home for Christmas, but I want it to be about my, like yours was about your family. And so it's like, well, I want it to be also about my family and our time as our unit too. And I think and that's just one, like you said, and it was interesting because I never thought about it. It was so fun to be with you guys over the holiday. It's so fun visiting you guys over the holidays.
Right.
And especially with the kids being cousins and stuff, it just really is.
But like you said, it can be holiday adjacent, right? You can have the Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with your family and we can visit each other around that time. It doesn't be like on those days that you've carved out that's important for you.
Yeah. And I think, for just kind of, I know we kind of dove deep into that particular topic. The holidays can be a lot of fun. It's a lot of choices, right?
Yeah.
About things to do, ways to spend time with people or not. And, there's just not enough hours in the month.
Right. Yeah. I think it can be a vicious cycle that can leave us stressed and anxious and burnout. You know what I mean? And I think, also there can be, so there can also be demands on your time and money. And then also fear and judgment and disapproval of others, And again, like I said, I know we've talked about this when we talked with Sophia Lyon about boundaries with family, but like it can also be like a triggering, like, why am I not happy? I'm supposed to be happy during this time. And so I think that's what we kind of wanted to talk about, is just some tips on how you can avoid that and just be more in the moment and purposeful and intentional.
And I think also where it becomes more relevant too is when you have kids or around kids, because even what we were just talking about, we both have this we both had this experience. Everybody has an experience as kids in terms of what the holidays were to them. And then, translating that to like what you want that to be for your own kids, what you do or don't want that to be, right, for your own kids, and sort of setting forth that path of what that is. And everyone has a different view of that. I think mom, the Christmas was very special to her. And I think a lot of folks who are maybe the baby boomer generation, Christmas or the holidays and birthdays were like the few times people would get like gifts and stuff, because a lot of families were like, that's when there was actually a middle class and people were struggling to kind of make ends meet in a lot of ways with all the kids they were having.
I mean, Dad talked about ordering something and waiting weeks for the train to come. I think there was a time when you didn't have access due to transportation. So Mom would say they would get like an orange and maybe have to ask her like a banana in her stocking. Like obviously oranges don't grow in Kansas. So that would be like the one time of year you would get to have an orange, So I think now I think we have access to everything all the time. And so it is a little different, but I think years ago, I wanted to do everything for everyone and do it all and make cookies for everybody and make all these traditions. And I think I've really backed off on that. And I think I have learned, I think that kind of goes into our first tip, is I've learned how to ask for help. We've always had like pre-COVID, we would have like an ugly sweater Christmas party, or we would have a New Year's Eve party. And I started having it be potluck. So instead of like pulling my hair out and trying to make all of these wonderful things, it's like, what, let's just have potluck, ask people for help, and look at how you can take some things off your plate so you're not stressed.
Yes. And, another tip that we talked about is really avoiding emotional vampires. So, it's about, being aware of, the people that you are around during the holidays, and, finding ways to avoid conflict, and just being aware of your, of what you need, and maybe how others are socially, that, you want to avoid those encounters.
I think in general, I think we're always encouraging everyone to set some boundaries and recognize that there might be people in your life that, I love the analogy filling your cup. And so it's like you're pouring all of your emotional energy, and when you're with them, you come away empty. So being aware of that, sometimes we can't avoid them. Sometimes it's a boss, it's a coworker, whatever. But so if you can't, sever that relationship, we can, like you're saying, distance yourself from them. So you have the emotional energy to focus on the things that fill your cup, or also people that you might recognize, wow, I'm overly accommodating to that person. And this is a time of year where I really don't have a lot of time. And so I've got to be careful. Maybe I don't see that person as much, because when I'm with them, I end up, saying yes to a whole bunch of things.
Yeah. And I think, all of these tips that we've talked about, we'll kind of continue to walk through. They're really tips to think about all year. And, for us, what we talk about is, during the holiday season, things just get a lot more demanding. So this is really a time where some of these things are like, everything is compounded and compacted and compressed, and, just things to continue to revisit in your own life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also I want to, and I know we've talked about this before, but like tip 3, manage your expectations. I loved when Sophia Lyon reminded us that disappointment comes from unmet expectations, and so it's like, let's take a step back, look at previous holidays. And if there were some times where you really kind of felt disappointed, how can we kind of manage those expectations? We already kind of talked about that a little bit, right? But like you coming here and being a little disappointed, and then being like, okay, here's how I'm going to, change the way I want that to be,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, cause even, a couple of years ago where we did come for Christmas, right? And I think it was like 2 years ago, Jess, right? And remember, we rented a house. We had our own Christmas morning. We had our own time, right? And so that was sort of a way of us kind of, managing those expectations and not being disappointed where we had our own time. I think also, during this time, there's a ton of things to do. There are, numerous people you might think about getting gifts for, and the stress of trying to find the perfect gift, decorating your house, decorating cookies, baking, all the things, right? And so part of managing expectations is important externally and communicating to people, but also internally on your own expectations, which is something I have a really hard time with. Is in my mind, I'm thinking about doing all of these things, and then, Christmas Eve comes, or even after Christmas, and I find myself disappointed because I didn't get to do all the things I want to do. And that shouldn't be the case. I need to manage my own expectations. I did do a lot of great things, and it's like keeping that perspective, but really starting to kind of manage, like, what are the things I really want to do, or experience, or people I want to spend time with, and sticking to that plan. I think, that's a good thing to think about as we move into December, and thinking about, like, how can you have like a really fun, meaningful, fulfilling holiday season?
Yeah. And I think for us as well, I think for me, it's like paring down. Have you ever heard that, like, write your to-do list and then tear it in half kind of thing? And so for us, we love to do, there's a house that everyone goes to, that has their own station, and the music is whatever coordinated.
Is it
with
the one
lights.
That's like in the street behind you?
No,
a different
no, they
neighborhood?
haven't really been doing that. It's over by mom and dad. So it's like this big ranch. I think the person must work on this trip with like, it's like they have a big front yard. It's this whole thing, and you park and you watch it. So we definitely do that. Right. That's free. One night we get in our jammies, we get hot cocoa, we go do that. And then FLM has the cactus garden. Those two are free things that I feel like are a must. And then around that Christmas time, I always go with Teresa to the Bellagio gardens, because they make it like insane. I don't know if did you ever get to do that? The Bellagio gardens?
Yes.
The botanical gardens, and everything is made from plants, and it's like insane. They have the big polar bears, whatever. So it's like, we do those three things. And then other than that, it's like, I've got to like, push out the noise, so if people are like, oh, are you going to do the glittering lights? Are you going to go do this? You're going to do that. It's like, we might, if I feel like it at that time, but it's like, I feel good, like these three things, right? So I have like maybe like a 6-week time period to do these three things with the kids that are meaningful to us. And then, paring it down. Or I used to go crazy, like, what can I get the teachers? Or I don't know, like I would make all these gifts and work really hard and try to do all of this stuff. Cause I love to make things, but it's like I know we talk about in the blog post, just buy it. Right. So now I'm like $5 Starbucks gift cards for the teachers with a little cookie, the end, and it's like kind of letting go of this. Oh, I'd love to do this elaborate thing, but kind of outsourcing some of the gifts. And then maybe too, I used to want to do like mom and make 5 different kinds of cookies and give plates to all my friends. And now I choose to maybe make one type of cookie, or just give my friends a card and let it go that I need to be this Santa for everyone.
So last year I bought, I was going to make some Christmas things, and I bought like white chocolate chips, and I found all these recipes I wanted to do. And I was going to do like the chocolate dipped pretzel sticks, like the big thick pretzel sticks. And it's all still in my pantry. I didn't get to it. And so I overcommitted and underdelivered. I think that I would like to do that again this year. I need to just manage my time better. Also, to everything that you're talking about, we are really kind of coming out of a lot of COVID restrictions still in a lot of ways. And so I feel like this Christmas, especially, there's going to be a lot more that was happening versus last year, like Christmas programs. And there's a lot more options and things to do. Families are traveling more. So it becomes a matter of needing to make choices as well.
That reminds me, I bought cocoa bombs were the biggest thing like a few years ago when I went and bought cocoa bomb molds I don't know,
Yes.
just the things. And I bought all the things. And it's like, you know what? I'm fine with being like, I just threw my money out the window. I'm probably never making cocoa bombs. And I will have these cocoa bomb molds in my pantry indefinitely. And I love
Yeah.
to, like, when you talk about decorating and you're like, set it and forget it. I'm to get a blow up. So we, I know our listeners do not know this, but we live in the first house, the first and only house my husband and I have ever purchased. And we were closing on our house in 2009. And the woman goes, "Oh my gosh, you live on Christmas Street." And I was like, what's Christmas Street? And she was like, oh my gosh, your street goes crazy for Christmas. And I was like, okay, I mean, I like Christmas. So, okay. And then we start getting letters from the neighbors. Get ready. Like, the truck is coming. It's Black Friday and we'll start decorating. And there was a whole spreadsheet of people that you would host lunch. And from Thanksgiving until Christmas, we would be out decorating. The one guy got like a boom so you could put the lights zigzagged across the street. The cul-de-sac had mini houses with window displays. On Christmas Eve, one neighbor would come and give hot cocoa and candy canes to everybody, and buses would come from a strip and tour our neighborhood. We won the like neighborhood lights display for decades. And it was a very intense time. And
how funny was it that you had bought the house that were Disney princesses and you happened to have an 18-month-old daughter?
Yes. And they were like, oh, here are 10, life-size Disney princesses to put in front of your yard. And so our neighbors have since all moved. There's only one original, us and another neighbor left. And as soon as everybody moved, I was like, I'm getting blowups. I was like, forget this. I have 2 giant blowups, right? You set it outside, you plug it in the end. So we went from like pink lights, hammering things, spending every waking moment.
And even making new princess. There'd be a new princess movie.
Yes,
you guys would have to
I was like, there was not enough diversity as well. I needed some diversity in the princesses, some racial diversity. And and so it was fun because the kids ran up and down the street. We live in a cul-de-sac. It was a community thing, and that was fun. But that was like a lifestyle. Yeah, that was very intense. And so I am totally fine. I think a person could mourn and go on and on about, oh, the neighborhood has changed, nothing the same, but I am embracing the change and looking at how that's impacting me positively. And that helps me manage my expectations on, like you were saying, okay, what's really, I think it's a time to audit what's really important to me. What do we really want to do? Okay. Is there anything I want to cook or make? Is there people that I want to see? Are there decorations I want to have out, and kind of start paring it all down? I wanted to have this, we had the big ceiling. I wanted this 12-foot artificial tree. It's so big. And I told Justin, I want to go back to, we used to get a real tree. I'm back to a small, manageable, real tree that we don't have to store, so it's okay if you change some things, just.
Well, and maybe I know we only have 5 tips, but maybe we need to add that. I like that you said audit your list. So not only are you setting expectations between yourself and others, but you're really making a list and checking it twice, kind of a thing, that you are doing the things that you want to do. And really that probably leads into our 4th tip anyway, which is being selfful. And really taking time to take care of yourself during the holidays. I mentioned in a previous episode where some girlfriends and I went to holiday tea at the Peninsula here in Chicago, which was really so fun. We did a white elephant, and it just felt like such a fun, festive activity. And I think that, squeezing in some adult fun during this time, my husband and I try to do like a date night dinner around Christmas time. And the last couple of years, what we found is, I think the kids are normally in school the Friday before their Christmas break. And so we would take that time and do a day date, and we would just have a really nice lunch and really enjoy our time together for the holiday madness. So that's something else. I mean, it's not just about spending time with your girlfriends, but also, you're connecting with your spouse can be another part of being selfful.
And we talked about that. Like, we make it about family. And it's like, it can be whatever you want it to be. And it can be about you. and doing things just for you. And so I think we're encouraging everyone to plan at least one thing for yourself that's just for you. I like that. I like that little day off date situation.
I think that I think this is one that I really want to try, even doing all the things that I mentioned or whatever. I think this is one I really want to try to think about, like what would be fun, festive thing to really like fill my cup, right, during the holiday season. This year, we talked about, there's always things to do. Maybe it's starting to think about the things that you've always wanted to do, but you haven't done. And maybe picking one of those things. Like I've always wanted to go to the Nutcracker. Is that a good thing? I hear mixed feedback on like if I should go see the Nutcracker or like the Christmas Carol. Maybe I go see it. Maybe you go see an event, a play or something with friends or family.
I'm trying to think if we've done the Nutcracker. I think Gabby went with a friend. The Smith Center here does it. And Gabby was in a Nutcracker just a couple years ago, but they called it like the Nutcracker remix. So they also had tap, different genres of music. I just think I would do anything. It's like if you're a ballet person, right? There's not going to be talking, right? It's going to be an orchestra, and it can run long. So I think you would enjoy it. Taking the boys, that would not be fun for me. That's true, right? But it'd have
to be something that's more engaging for them.
I'm excited for my self-full thing. I know we talked about it, but I'm going to go to the Bad Elf pop-up Sunday with my girlfriends, where it's like a cheesy bar with lights everywhere. It has an Airstream inside.
Cool. Yay.
And we're going to go and kind of like check that situation out. So I think that will be really fun and maybe start a new tradition where I can meet up with my girlfriends during this time. And I think tying back to this time of year might be emotional for some of us. And so I think it's important that you allow yourself to feel all the feels. Feelings are just that. They're feelings. They're neither good nor bad. They just are. So if you find yourself feeling anything other than happy, that's okay.
This is a lifelong effort for me in terms of really taking time to do that. Instead of really avoiding those emotions, which is what I tend to do. It's very easy to busy yourself during the holidays and
which not is a really, way of numbing, right?
Yes. And not really taking the time to kind of, to your point, feel the feels. And I think sometimes for me too, is by doing that, it fills your cup. It can fill your cup, meaning that you're taking this moment, you're recognizing your feelings and you're allowing them to kind of pour over you, right? And accept them and really kind of making a moment even more meaningful. And so I think about this as not only the stressful and straining types of situations, but also the ones where, you're taking your family to as Christmas activity and like just taking that moment to like feel that feel of pride or happiness or joy. And thinking about why is it that that's doing that is maybe part of that too. And it really helps you feel and know that you're, kind of filling your cup, if you will. I'm not the therapist here. I'm just using my lame words.
I think about like the opposite of that, where like, let's say, I'm probably not going to do that this year, but let's say like we buy tickets ahead of time and it's like $50 to $75 a kid and it's some kind of Santa experience. And they're like, why are we here? This is boring. I don't want to be here. I'm ready to go. Why can't I get this $500 ornament
stuffed animal
they're like, so it's like, I'm doing this for you. This is supposed to be, but like that's reacting. And so, when you're talking about, and I know you're talking about the rain method, which I love, and you've brought it up. We've talked about it before, recognize. So it's like, I'm feeling really disappointed. Right. And that internal dialogue of I'm accepting that I'm feeling disappointed and this is not going the way that I want. Ask, so it's recognize, accept, investigate. Why do I feel this way? Well, because I spent X amount of money. I took time off. I'm trying to be with my kids and they're ungrateful, and then the N, not identify, you are not your emotions. You're a whole person. And this is a tiny part of you. So this is 2 hours of my life. They're just kids. They don't understand. They can't conceptualize what went into all of this, and it's going to be okay. I don't need to kind of lash out. Yes, I'm disappointed, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I think when we were kind of talking about auditing, it's like check in with the family too. Do people want to do this? Or are you just trying to compare to other people and live this life because you're trying to make Instagram photos?
Yeah. Like something to tell everybody else that you're doing.
Right.
Yeah. That's a really
What are we doing? We basically, the kids stay in their underwear all day. And we don't do anything. Can that go on Instagram?
Well, the thing is I feel like my kids, especially, the younger one now, would just be on video games his whole life. And it's actually not fulfilling. And I'm trying to teach him that personal connections and time with people is.
It's that balance. We've talked about it because I want to do nothing too. Like we're all overscheduled. And so when we have a moment where we can sleep in, you're right. It's finding that balance of doing something not mindless and numbing, which can have a purpose, which is maybe video games or whatever. But then, also in engaging in some things. And what does that look like? And it doesn't have to be going and doing all of these things. But like you said, just doing the pretzel rods, Beckett's super creative and Wes loves to cook. So that could totally be something that they do,
That was my thinking too. Is, trying to get them more engaged on something like that. I luckily, I feel like Wes is kind of growing out of the video game stuff a bit. And so it's easy then to kind of drag Beckett out of it too. I think for many of us, we all look forward to the holidays. It's a break from the doldrums of life in some way. And it is, a time you can make some really fun memories. And so, we're by no means the experts here. I think what's awesome about what, even this episode is it's kind of refreshing. I don't know about you, Jess, but it's like keeping all these things top of mind for me that I can continue to kind of figure out ways to make a great holiday season for myself and my family and people around me and not have it be such a struggle. Right. And not have it be stressful. How can we all take that stress out, practicing our self-compassion, letting go of the perfectionism and all the things and truly enjoy the holidays. It'll be fun.
And when you look back on memorable holidays, that's what you're attached to is the memories and how you felt and not these finishing touches of it looking a certain way or being a certain way, so, we can just live with intention. And like you said, find joy in the imperfection of the season.
So wise. Well, good luck, everyone. We hope you have a very fun, enjoyable, and fulfilling holiday, and we will try to do the same.
Thanks for listening and joining us today.
And don't forget to follow us on social media @Chasing Brighter or on our blog, chasingbrighter.com.